Shorekeeper is making another appearance again as a rerun character in Wuthering Waves. Now the real question is, will Shorekeeper still be worth pulling for the future updates? Is she worth your ash rates, and does she shine compared to the other units? And is Shorekeeper worth skipping? Well, that's exactly what we'll be going over today, so let's get right into the video. When Shorekeeper first dropped, she was considered one of the best sustaining units in the game back in update 1.3. See, that's the crazy part. Shorekeeper, even a year later since release, still is probably I'm confident she's literally the best character in the game, even a year since her release. So scratch the whole considerably one of the best in the game, she is the best in the game. And realistically, there's no way that anybody could debate that, because one, support characters are the best in most gacha games, and two, the type of amplification buffs that Shorekeeper provides to your team and how versatile she is as a character, which we'll be going over later on in this video, is the reasons why she is quite literally the most versatile and the best character in the entire game. These bold statements is, of course, if you really do care about meta, and even if you don't, Shorekeeper, like I said, makes all of your favorite characters twice as good. And like I said, this is a bold claim, but we will break that down. Now, what exactly does Shorekeeper do? Well, Shorekeeper is a 5-star rectifier user that specializes in healing and giving her team-wide buffs. The very important thing to highlight about her abilities is the fact that she can give her team specifically crit rate and crit damage buffs, which is abnormal compared to other units that bless team-wide attack percentage buffs for the most part. Kind of like popular free-to-play units like Verena and Wuwa, for example, which with that fact already makes Shorekeeper a game changer of a unit. And as I mentioned before, this is why she makes any one of your favorite DPS or main on-field characters be better than what they are. Another very important thing worth noting is that her outro provides the entire team 50% damage amplification buff for 30 seconds. Now the part that makes this so great is regardless of how many times you swap in and out of other units on your team, the amplification buff will run its course throughout the whole 30 seconds. Basically meaning switching out on any one of your resonators in your 3-person composition does not deactivate the buff that is given by Shorekeeper. Now moving on to Shorekeeper's resonance skill, it generates 20 Concerto points instantly and generates a burst of healing. Then if Shorekeeper is built correctly, her intro skill from her resonance liberation can deal extra damage during a rotation. So yes, fun fact, Shorekeeper actually has 2 types of intro skills, and for the most part on most characters, intro skills are pretty useless, and the last upgrade on most characters' skill trees. Also, just to know, both intro skills heal and deal damage and generate Concerto energy. As far as Shorekeeper's inherent skills, she has a cheat death ability that transfers half of Shorekeeper's HP to an ally, preventing them from dying, which is good for more newer players who aren't really used to the game or used to enemy combos, etc., and have a hard time with the difficulty and complexity of Wuthering Waves at the start of the game. This will help any one of your characters stay alive. The second one grants Shorekeeper 10% additional energy regen while any resonator is in her stellar realm radius. These are very important things you need to know that Shorekeeper can do, even if you are a new player and all that sounds complicated. There's still simple things Shorekeeper has that every player can benefit off of, whether you're a hardcore gamer or a casual one at that. Now moving on to account longevity, we have an understanding on what Shorekeeper can provide to you and your team compositions, but what about the argument that heals in Wuthering Waves is kind of pointless when you got to be close to perfect on endgame modes like the hologram, where you're basically like 1-shot most of the time or 2-shot? Well, that argument is very valid, and you may be right that heals aren't really that powerful once you become a more skilled Wuthering Waves player, because you know enemy attack patterns, rotations, and different skills that will help you out compared to a player that is just starting out or a casual player. As I mentioned before, for casual players and players who are just starting out, the heals is actually a very big benefit that you can gain from Shorekeeper in the early game. I still need it to be known that Shorekeeper is the only character in the game currently that can provide crit damage and crit rate buffs, and I just want you guys to keep in mind that her release is basically a year old. There's no other support character that can even hold a torch to her in the game, and that is as of right now at this point. And like I said, it has been a year since Shorekeeper has released. The only resonator that can even come close is Verena, and that's because Verena is very similar to Shorekeeper, as Verena is also one of the best support characters in the game, mainly because she provides attack amplifications as well, and her duplicates are easier to obtain due to her being on the standard banner. So whenever you lose a 50-50 going for a limited type of character, you have a small percentage chance to get a Verena or a duplicate copy that would make Verena better, and she is one of the best support characters in the game as well. So moving back on track here, when you are building any main on-field or DPS resonator, it does not even matter who we are talking about. We could be talking about Carlotta, Camellia, Jinshi, Jigen, and even the 4-star characters as well, or even the main character Rover. They all require having crit damage and crit rate stats in order to get the best damage out of them. Obviously, they all vary when it comes to other stats besides those, but crit damage and crit rate are the main ones. And what does Shorekeeper provide? Both crit rate and crit damage buffs. What will future DPS characters require? Both crit rate and crit damage stats. So why are we still not going for Shorekeeper? I do not understand. If you want to pull for your favorite characters, do that. But you can make your favorite character stronger through the longevity of your account with Shorekeeper. He basically nerfs power creep in the support role, and she has for a consistent year. The development team would have to make another support unit that provides crit damage and crit rate buffs in order to remove her from the top, but to be honest, I never see her being not needed, even if that were to happen. She's super versatile and a hard replacement for a third slot character on any team. Oh, and she keeps your main favorite character alive with her inherit skill. At this point, I'm just advocating you use your summons on her and just do it. There's realistically no excuse on why you should not be considering getting Shorekeeper. Alright, moving on. Now that we did mention that you can pretty much pair Shorekeeper with any DPS character and she is a support character, rule of thumb is most support characters provide account longevity, and I want to talk about how free to play friendly she is, and automatically enough to say Shorekeeper is free to play friendly, but we can also talk about her weapon of choice as well. Shorekeeper is one character where her signature weapon is easily skippable, as the free to play option is actually really good for her as well, as you can obtain the variation, which is actually still very strong, and the more duplicates you have of it, the better it becomes. Well, you know, with any weapon or duplicate of characters. You can obtain the variation through gacha when you are summoning on banners and end up getting a 4-star weapon. Who knows, check your inventory, you might just have one sitting around collecting dust. The more variation copies you have, the more easier it will become for Shorekeeper's rotations, as well as it grants a large amount of energy regen, which is perfect for Shorekeeper's kit. Rotating back on the topic of best teams for Shorekeeper, well, in case you haven't gotten the memo yet, Shorekeeper is one of the only characters in the game that can fit into any team you could think of as a third slot unit. As I mentioned before, the simple fact is giving up crit damage and crit rate buffs just automatically decreases the chance of you doing even crazier damage numbers. Again, there's realistically no reason why you should be skipping Shorekeeper, as she's literally the best support character in the game. You can use her anytime you want and for any team. And again, just reminding you, if you end up picking up Shorekeeper, I will remind you once again, you can use her with anybody, 5-star or even 4-star characters included. She makes any team good. I know I repeated myself over and over again, but I know some of you guys are probably still considering skipping her, and if you don't got her, she's literally a game changer. Now let's move on to the final topic of the video, and that's going to be Shorekeeper sequences. Now you might be a player that already owns Shorekeeper and you have a lot of Afterglow curls sitting around because you're saving up for extra pulls, or you might be a player that has a whole bunch of astrites and you're not sure if you want to go for more than one copy of Shorekeeper. Whatever the case may be, I'm going to be going over the sequences and why some of them may be worth considering if you want to get copies of Shorekeeper. Now, if you already have Shorekeeper, why not get another resonator over her? Well, before you decide to make that decision, just remember you can still purchase dupes of Shorekeeper from the shop, like we just went over with Afterglow Curl. For example, S1 makes the Stellar Realm more effective, especially for those players who struggle with Shorekeeper's rotation and their current team setup. Basically, it extends the duration of the whole entire Stellar Realm, so that way you have a better time doing rotations. Then Sequence 2 buffs all party members' attack percentage by 40%, increasing the necessity of having a great support character like Shorekeeper on your team. And 40% is quite the percentage, it's actually a lot. That's why you hear from a lot of players and content creators alike that Shorekeeper S2 is probably one of the best investments you can make on your Wuthering Waves account for its longevity. Then moving on to Sequence 3, it helps with Shorekeeper's constructor energy buildup, and as for Sequence 4, it gives you 70% more heals when casting Resident skill Chaos Theory, which, as we were talking about earlier in the video, this is not really worth it unless if you are a new or casual player, but even then, getting 4 copies of Shorekeeper is kind of a feat, so it's not really that worth it, I would say, but it is still worth mentioning. Then for Sequence 5, it extends the range of pulling effect on Shorekeeper's basic attack stage 3 Annihilation, which again, I don't think is as good as Sequence 2, but if you get Sequence 6, which of course, if you get any 5-star character to Sequence 6, they're going to be pretty broken for the most part. Sequence 6 increases the damage of Shorekeeper's intro skill, and for some reason increases her crit damage by 500%, which is absolutely insane. So in my eyes, if you're going to invest extra duplicate copies into Shorekeeper, the most worth copy to get is Sequence 2, because that 40% damage amplification boost for your team is going to come real in handy with the total outburst of damage that you can do with your team. So overall, do I think you should be skipping Shorekeeper? Hell no. And I know I said that all in all throughout the whole entire video, but if you made it to the end and you're still considering pulling Shorekeeper, I don't know what to tell you. I really don't. It's just you get her and you basically set up one of your teams for endgame for the rest of time. For the rest of the time that Wuthering Waves exists as a live servers game, you will own crit rate and crit damage amplifications from a support character, the most versatile character in the entire game, and will be for a long time until they somehow power creep her with another support character, which I don't see happening anytime soon. However, if you did enjoy the video, my name is Mikey. Please hit that subscribe button, comment your thoughts, smash that like button so I know you enjoyed the video, and have a good rest of your day. Peace out.